Sometimes, survival depended on the shadows. When war broke out, when governments failed, when shelves were empty and money was worthless, there was still another economy. Not in banks, not in shops, but in back alleys, hidden basements, and whispered deals. It was called the black market. To some, it was crime. To others, it was salvation. It fed the hungry. It smuggled life-saving medicine. It kept cities alive when official systems collapsed. And while generals fought battles and politicians gave speeches, ordinary people survived because of an invisible network of trade. This is the untold story of the black markets that saved entire cities. Black markets don't appear out of nowhere. They're born when official systems break, when governments ration food, ban goods, or lock down entire economies. People look for another way. Take World War II. Across Europe, shops were empty. Bread, butter, meat, all rationed. On paper, every family got their fair share. But in reality, the rations were never enough. So people turned to the shadows. Farmers hid part of their harvest. Traders smuggled goods through forests and across borders. And suddenly, an underground market began to thrive. It wasn't just Europe. In every war, in every crisis, the same thing happens. During the Great Depression, when banks collapsed and credit dried up, people bartered quietly among themselves. In besieged cities from Leningrad to Warsaw, black markets kept families alive when the official supply chains failed. Here's the truth. When laws fail, markets don't. They adapt, they shift, they move underground. Because no matter what happens, people will always trade for food, for medicine, for survival. When shelves are empty, people get desperate. And in those moments, the black market becomes more than just business. It becomes survival. During World War II, families in occupied Europe lived on tiny rations, a few ounces of bread, a little sugar, maybe a scrap of meat once in a while. But in the shadows, a different world existed. Farmers hid part of their harvest and sold it quietly. Butchers slaughtered animals in secret. Smugglers carried butter, flour and cheese across forests and rivers, risking prison or worse if they were caught. For many families, it was the only way to survive. A mother might trade her wedding ring for a sack of potatoes. A father might barter his coat for a few loaves of bread. Even penicillin, the life-saving drug, was traded on the black market, smuggled into cities where hospitals had none. It wasn't cheap. Prices were sky high, and yet people paid because the alternative was hunger or death. This is the paradox of the black market. It preyed on desperation, charging more than most could afford. But without it, entire neighborhoods, entire cities might have starved. Food, medicine, fuel, all of it moved through invisible hands. And in times of war, those invisible hands often mattered more than the official ones. To some, the black market was a crime. Smugglers breaking the law, traders charging outrageous prices, profiteers growing rich while others suffered. And it's true, a pound of butter on the black market could cost 10 times the official price. A few cigarettes could buy a loaf of bread. Families sometimes gave up heirlooms, jewelry, silver, family treasures, just to get enough food for the week. But here's the other side of the story. Without those smugglers, without those traders, without that hidden network, many people would not have survived at all. Look at Berlin after World War II. The city was in ruins. Official rations were tiny, barely enough to keep anyone alive. But in the rubble, the black market thrived. People gathered in broken streets, trading cigarettes, soap, coffee, and bread. Yes, some got rich. But for most, it wasn't about greed. It was about survival. This is the paradox that has followed every black market in history. Were these people villains? Or were they lifelines? Were they criminals exploiting the desperate? Or were they the only reason those desperate people survived? The truth lies somewhere in between. The black market was harsh. It was unfair. It was dangerous. But for millions of families, it was the only hope they had. When official money collapses, people always find something else to trade. After World War II, in the ruins of Germany, the Reichsmark was almost worthless. Prices doubled, tripled, sometimes within days. But there was one thing everyone wanted. One thing that always held its value: cigarettes. Cigarettes became money. You could buy bread with them. You could pay rent. You could even hire a doctor. For a few years, they were the most trusted currency in the country. And it wasn't just Germany. In Italy, chocolate and coffee became the coins of survival. In Eastern Europe, soap, stockings, and even perfume were traded like cash. Anything scarce, anything people truly valued, became money. It's a strange thought, isn't it? While governments printed worthless banknotes, ordinary people trusted the things they could hold, taste, or smell. A cigarette, a bar of soap, a piece of chocolate. That's the hidden lesson of the black market. Money is only as strong as the trust behind it. When that trust disappears, people don't stop trading. They just choose a new form of money, one that works, even when everything else has failed. The black markets of World War II may be gone, but shadow economies never disappeared. In the Soviet Union, for decades, official shops were empty. But in the back alleys of Moscow, traders sold Western jeans, American cigarettes, and even banned music. In North Korea today, survival often depends on illegal markets where families buy rice and medicines smuggled across the border. And in Venezuela, where hyperinflation destroyed the value of the bolivar, entire neighborhoods now depend on underground dollar markets to survive. The pattern is always the same. When governments fail, when official systems collapse, people build their own. Not with laws, not with banks, but with whatever they have. It's risky, it's dangerous, sometimes it's brutally unfair. But again and again, black markets prove one thing: you can shut down a bank, you can close a border, you can even outlaw money itself. But you can't stop people from trading, because trade is survival, and survival always finds a way. History remembers the battles, the generals, the governments, but in the shadows, ordinary people built another economy, a hidden world that fed the hungry, smuggled medicine, and kept cities alive when official systems collapsed. Were black markets a crime, or were they the lifeline that made survival possible? That's the paradox. They were both. So here's my question to you. If you lived through those times, would you see the black market as exploitation or as salvation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you want more untold stories of how money shaped history, don't forget to subscribe to Economic Chronicles. Because history isn't just about kings and battles. It's about the hidden economies that kept people alive.